Hey guys, and welcome back to the Warwick F1 show. This is episode 18 of the 2025 season, and in this one we are going to be looking at previewing the jewel in the Formula One calendar, the historic landmark of the Formula One circuit, the Formula One circus, and that is the Monaco Grand Prix. I'm your host for this one, Anwar, and I'm once again joined by both Lucy and Daniel. Firstly, my kind of question to you both is, how excited are we for Monaco to come back?
Listen, Sunday's not usually the most exciting, but you know, I like it. It's got history, it's got vibes, it's got Ferrari inevitably messing up their strategy. What more could you want?
Yeah, Monaco, the jewel in the crown of the calendar. And the race is not often a jewel, but the qualifying is something to behold. Obviously, we had that brilliant qualifying in 2023, which is probably the best of the season. Last year was great as well. Charles Leclerc's historic Monaco win, first in 93 years, I want to say, based on Alex Jake's brilliant commentary of that last lap, or Alex Shakespeare, as we maybe should be calling him.
I like that.
But yeah, it was good last year, apart from obviously the lack of strategy, but that should be remedied this year.
Why shall it be remedied? Lucy, please enlighten me.
Well, because of the mandatory two-stop. Effectively, I think the main reason this has been implemented is firstly to, add maybe a little more drama, see if anything can be manufactured in terms of tyre deg. That won't happen, but we can try.
We can hope.
And but I think, to be honest, it's because last year, because obviously there was that big lap one crash, it red flagged on the first lap, and because of the really low tyre deg and also just the fact that you can't overtake, basically every team completed their mandatory pit stop under the red flag, because you can change tyres under the red flags and it counts as you having changed your tyres. And so I think the mandatory two-stop is both to, I don't know, maybe see if anything can happen in terms of strategy, but I think mainly it's so that if there is a red flag for whatever reason, that doesn't automatically take all the jeopardy out of the race.
I think it's like we saw last year, it was a bit of a farce that everyone got away with the early stop and then proceeded to just run till the end. I don't think that's what we want in Formula One. I don't think that's what the spectators in Monaco want either. So I'm glad that they've done that. And you never know, with these two mandatory pit stops, particularly when we've got safety cars, that can throw it. Safety cars do come out often here. We've got a lot of rookies here on the grid at the moment, so there's always a chance that one of them bins it, and that could bring a safety car, and that could add the jeopardy that we want as well. So we can hope, for sure. But I think, like Daniel mentioned, we're looking forward to quali, because that is one of the most entertaining quali sessions and the most impactful in terms of the overall weekend. I guess what I want to ask first is, who do we expect to be in and around the conversation? Because we've seen in Miami the McLarens by far and away the quickest car on the grid, but we also have seen this most recent weekend Verstappen able to keep up and actually beat the McLarens. So what do we expect? What are we thinking?
To be honest, in terms of how the different cars are due to perform, out of the top four as we'd consider them, McLaren, Red Bull, Mercedes and Ferrari, McLaren are kind of the team that's expected to do the best here because they've got the most all-around package.
It seems like it's competitive everywhere, right?
Seems like it's competitive everywhere. And specifically, if we're looking at other teams, which they also performed well here last year, and their balance of the car hasn't changed too much since last year. Red Bull, on the other hand, really struggled last year. Verstappen only entered the race in seventh, I want to say. Sixth or seventh, I can't remember. And their weakness is slow speed corners. And Monaco is basically just slow.
It's entirely and exclusively that, right?
Ferrari as well. It probably will also be a struggle track for them. They've not had great rear stability, and they seem to be having some quali woes, which won't help at Monaco. Mercedes, them being consistent, will probably help. So I'd say McLaren. I'm expecting McLaren to do well, but Mercedes could be in there if either of their drivers can hook a good lap together.
I'd pretty much echo that. I want to add as well, Ferrari, a big point of their race day and being competitive in Imola was their straight line speed that they tended to have. Obviously, that won't be much of a help in Monaco because the straights aren't very long and overtaking is tough. And it's not even like you can request a track change for Monaco because it's baked into and Red Bull really don't have a preference for those slow speed corners. It's the fast stuff where the car thrives, and Max tends to thrive as well. He enjoys traditional tracks more than street circuits, so that's when he thinks that the car tends to come alive. I think he kind of makes an exception for Monaco sometimes. I think he has a soft spot for the place because he's won there a couple of times, obviously, and he did a brilliant pole lap in 2023. But on the whole, I don't think the car's going to be right there to challenge the McLarens and close down that championship deficit.
I think on the balance as well, with Red Bull's main issue this year seeming to be its handling in Monaco when there's really not any room for error. It's such a tight circuit, you can imagine that would be even more of an issue.
Yeah, I feel like it's quite ominous for Yuki Tsunoda when he says when he pushes in the car in Q3, because that's the only real time that they tend to push that hard. He does tend to get unexpected oversteer in the mid-corner, which is, that's something of an issue when you're going around Monaco at 150 kilometers an hour or whatever. There was a crash for Perez in 2023, of course, when he did have some oversteer going into turn 1, and that put him out in Q1 because he had a crash there, which I'm thinking maybe that might have had something to do with the handling of the car, maybe, now we look back on it.
And 2022, Perez also had his crash there.
Was that the handling of the car?
I would only bring that up because when you initially said Perez crashed, that was what I was automatically thinking of.
A controversial one.
I guess my kind of counterpoint to the whole thing of the Red Bull handling might be a little bit of an issue here is I think we kind of have that. We could have used that point throughout the season, I guess. And Verstappen is joint most poles this season. He's on 3. Piastri is also on 3. And given that Monaco is... we've seen him put out brilliant laps, like, out the blue. I remember when Alonso was on provisional pole, Verstappen pulled out 0.3 of a second in the last sector alone, in one of the most exciting qualifying laps I've ever seen, really. Most impressive, at least. So I think you can't discount him. You can never discount someone like Max. And I personally think that he's got a great chance here. All he needs is one good lap in Q3 and then he might have it. How about the Ferraris and the Mercedes? Because we've seen them both of them being pretty up and down throughout. We've had weekends where the Merc has been up there on the podium. We've had weekends where the Ferrari looks a little bit quicker. Do we see them really in contention this weekend?
I think Merc could be over Ferrari. I mean, Daniel's already said about where Ferrari's issues are specifically.
Yep.
And Merc as well, when Antonelli's been talking about how he's been adapting to driving the car, his main thing that he says he's been struggling with is high-speed corners. So I'm expecting we could see Merc, given that they're such a consistent team, being up there again. Russell's good in quali, and I think if Antonelli doesn't have the high-speed corners, which seem to have been bothering him, then we could see the Mercs quite far up the field, but also kind of fairly close together on the grid.
I guess the other thing that we should mention is the reason why Merc struggled so much was potentially because of tyre wear issues and the high temps. We're not really going to have that here, are we?
No, slightly lower temperature than past races, especially in Miami, where they struggled quite a lot with that. George Russell and Kimi Antonelli were keen to emphasise after Imola that they still think that the car does thrive in colder temperatures as opposed to hotter temperatures. Obviously, there is a small risk of rain, actually, in Monaco.
We'll talk about that for the Saturday.
For the Saturday qualifying, which could make that very interesting. So I wonder how they'll perform in those conditions. I'm assuming quite well. But I'm expecting a stronger performance than the past 2 races, but maybe not up there with Bahrain, for example, where George Russell finished second to Piastri.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think we will go on to the qualifying discussion now. You mentioned that it might be a little bit raining and a little bit of rain in the area, I guess. We know how important qualifying is on this circuit. Qualifying means everything because of how difficult it is to overtake. It's nigh impossible in a race. So with that in mind, the Saturday performance is really important. Now, the kind of thing I want to talk about is there a chance that we see a car that isn't normally in the top 6, let's say, stick it somewhere there and hold it till the end.
I mean, I wouldn't have said this. I mean, you saying that quali is super important is definitely true. Time to bring out my random historical fact of the week. There hasn't been an overtake for the lead that wasn't into the first corner since 1985. So
whoever leads out of turn 1 tends to win
it. But
unless the year's 1996, in which case they just tend to break down or crash instead.
Seemingly in 1996, if you're not one of 3 specific people, you seem to break down or crash.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, but I think that Aston maybe could they were good in Imola, and specifically in terms of their quali. They did struggle a little with strategy, which, considering Monaco is just a quali in strategy, I'd be interested to see how they do there. But, feel like Alonso or even Stroll, depending on who kind of prefers the balance better, if they have a similar performance to what they did last week, you could easily see one of them in the 6th or 7th.
100%. I was when you were mentioning this kind of discussion, I think the Aston and the Williams were the two that sprung to mind, I guess. We've seen Albon perform really well in some of these qualifyings, mixing up with the big boys. Do you think Williams have got a chance of, sticking it in 4th or somewhere along those lines?
Yeah, I think so. Especially based on the past 2 weekends where they've been strong. But also Monaco's just that kind of track. 2023 we had Ocon, who just jumped to provisional pole at one point in Q3 and eventually started 3rd, finished 3rd, I believe, in that race. So it's just about who can lump on the most downforce and who can, ride that wave, execute their strategy good enough, not get caught out with any safety cars or something, which is something we saw, especially last year in Formula 2. The win was, of the feature race, I believe, the win was dictated based on luck with the safety car, pretty much, and alternate strategies. So I reckon we could see something like that from Williams. I'm not saying the win, of course. Lucy maybe got quite excited there, but
no.
I just mean trying something different and the track characteristics suiting their very particular car.
You mentioned about safety cars and the importance of that. We might even have a few incidents in qualifying, and that can also jumble up the grid a bit. If we're at one misplaced red flag, interrupts a run plan, screws over anyone who's running closest to the line, I guess.
Especially as well, I think it's worth saying that there's a 25% chance of rain actually during the quali hour. This is what it's currently saying. Obviously, don't trust the weather forecast and things like that. But also in that, the couple of hours before quali, there's also about 25% chance of rain, which means there's also the possibility of there being the quali being like a drying track over in quali, which kind of leaves drivers even more vulnerable to mishaps in terms of red flags and safety cars, because it is genuinely in everyone's benefit to just wait till the end.
It's the magic of Monaco, isn't it? It's the magic of a Monaco Saturday. So we'll see who comes out on top in terms of that. We are a little bit more pessimistic about what we are expected to see in the race in terms of entertainment. Do we see any reason for change this year?
Not any particular reason for change. I mean, it's always worth watching because in some ways, I find that watching Monaco, I do appreciate the strategy angle more, because at other tracks, sometimes if it turned into a strategy race, I sometimes just get a bit disappointed that there's not loads of on-track overtaking, whereas Monaco, especially if you consider, two compulsory pit stops equals double the number of times for Ferrari to mess up a pit stop. But
I like the fact we always circle Ferrari as the team that's going to do the mess up.
Historically, that is what's happened.
Yeah. Undeniably.
You say that we always highlight them, and it's because it's correct. I think it's still worth watching, because interesting things could happen, but just not interesting in terms of 1,000 overtakes.
I don't know if we mentioned as well, but the C6 tyre is coming back. So
we haven't mentioned that.
There's that step softer than last year, which should lend itself more to the two-stop. I mean, obviously they're all going to be doing it anyway, so maybe there won't be a great deal of difference and variety in that sense, because we won't have what we had in Imola, for example, with a couple of drivers trying a one-stop, benefiting from that perhaps. Maybe we'll see Sauber try another 3-stop like they did in Imola for some reason with Bortoletto.
I can't imagine this is a undercut.
Certainly
This
not.
is definitely not an undercut-heavy circuit, let's be honest.
No.
It's very difficult to feed your way through the field.
I guess though, like with the different tyre compounds, if maybe the step softer does introduce tyre deg as a thing, we may see more drivers not necessarily under or overcutting, but even if they're all on the 2-stop, we have some people maybe, if they start on the soft, doing their first stop really early and then other people doing it later or something like that, which just adds, I guess, a bit more jeopardy in terms of the safety car compared to when everyone's on the exact same strategy and so they'd all be due to pit at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's just the intrigue of something new, right, and another variable to add into the equation. People are going to be trying new things for the first time, pitting early, like you said, maybe. So there's just that to look out for and just enjoy the pit wall working at their best, maybe.
We'll see. The pit wall may...
Depends which pit wall.
Yeah, we've got to specify not the Ferrari pit wall.
Yeah.
Or even McLaren based on recent times.
Yeah.
Or their pit stops in Imola.
To be honest, the one thing with McLaren is that I would be slightly concerned that they had so many pit stop ways given that it's Monaco next, where the main thing... I mean, I think it was... The ones I can think of off the top of my head are 2016 and 2022, but both of those races were dictated by pit stops. Arguably 2021 as well, because of course remember that was where Mercedes accidentally screwed Bottas's tyre back onto the car and then it stayed on there for the next 49 hours. But
longest pit stop ever. Do we think we're going to beat that this weekend?
For their sake, hopefully not.
Yeah.
But
for our sake, hopefully yes, because it's
it's funny, but it wouldn't provide much more entertainment because there's no safety car because of it.
No,
It's
but
just
it
you
would
would-
still be funny to just occasionally cut back to the pits to see the
Then-
team still trying to get the tyre off.
Like whipping out a saw and trying to cut it off.
Saw.
Or
To get the wheel nut off.
dude,
Okay,
cut it like bread.
whatever, I guess.
But yeah, that's kind of all we need to discuss about Monaco because there isn't. I guess is much else we need to say. How about Yuki Tsunoda? You mentioned that he might struggle in relation to Verstappen. Do we need to see him get more than 10th this weekend, do you feel?
No, because Red Bull don't really have anything else to do other than keep him there. To be honest, he'll want to do well because he's kind of worked so hard to get this seat that he'll want to kind of show that he can perform with it, especially given how dominant the Red Bull's been in the past. If I were him, I would be quite annoyed that I've got it in its current phase. But he'll want to do well, but it's not a Doohan situation or even a Colapinto situation if the whole 5-race contract thing is to be believed, where it's sort of if he doesn't perform, then there's a viable alternative that they can swap it out for.
There isn't like a Paul Aaron waiting in the wings or anything like that. So I guess he isn't under threat. Let's move on to our predictions for this preview. We're going to look at who we expect to take pole position, who we expect to finish in the top 5, and what our random predictions will be in terms of DNFs and something completely out of the ordinary. So who wants to kick us off first for this?
I'll go first. So for pole position, I have said Oscar Piastri is going to take that one. I think he's on a great roll, especially in qualifying, and he's going to be... There's no dubious strategy to get in his way in qualifying, probably. So if it's wet, I think he's going to take that one as well. For the race winner, however, I have gone for Lando Norris.
Wow, we're seeing a difference in pole to winner. Right, explain. What's been your moment of realisation that this is going to happen?
We might have the first overtake that's not on the first lap for the win since 1985, and frankly, I just really want to see that happen. I think Norris, he needs to put some points, put some manners on Piastri, get some respect back on his name. Maybe at the first
He's
corner.
got to earn the street cred.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's literal street cred because Monaco's a street
I
circuit.
like that.
Street cred, yes, good. Well done. Yeah, I know. I just think that Norris he's going to have something to prove this weekend, honestly. P2, I've gone for Piastri. No surprise there. Just a quick switch. I don't think they're going to have a coming together this weekend. I think it's going to happen this year, but I don't think it's going to be in Monaco. So maybe he's going to lose some street cred this weekend. George Russell, P3. Mercedes back with a little bit of form, doing what they can. He's going to do nothing and get P3, as has been the trend with George Russell this year. Oh boy, I've gone Carlos Sainz P4 again.
All right, explain. I think this is worth an explanation because I am in the mood to have a car that isn't normally in the top 5, but I wouldn't have gone for the Williams. Why?
Well, I went for the Williams because I felt cheated out of the Sainz P4 last weekend, and I thought if I just keep predicting it, maybe he'll get good and get better than Albon one weekend.
Okay.
You're doing
Honestly,
the Piastri P3 and me strategy where I just kept saying he'd finish P3 and eventually he did.
There's no science to it.
There's no science to it.
Oh, there's no science.
I didn't like that one, Lucy. I didn't like
I said
it.
it anyway.
I liked it,
Yeah.
yeah. Well done. And I think Carlos Sainz is going to finish ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who's going to finish P5 in his second consecutive race, ahead of Charles Leclerc, the home hero.
Is this leaning into your DNF by
We'll get
any
into
chance?
that one later.
I like that. Okay.
For the second weekend in a row.
Interesting. I like the suspense.
But we can talk about the notable exception of Max Verstappen from my top 5.
Oh, yeah, explain. You think that Red Bull's just going to struggle?
Yeah, I just think it's... Monaco is known to be a tax haven, but I don't think it's going to be a Max haven this weekend.
Right, this is one too many puns for me.
Yeah, no, the Red Bull's just not suited to it, really. I don't think... He's going to extract the maximum from the car, but we saw last year, I think that was about P6 in qualifying,
Yep.
so I'm expecting something similar this weekend.
I do think that tracks like Monaco, tracks like Singapore, are the types of ones that end up being anomalous results for Red Bull. Like, I'm thinking back to 2023 Singapore, that was the one race that Red Bull didn't win that season, you know? And I guess, I feel like Monaco has that same feeling of, you can if you start really low, or something doesn't go right, or if you don't get the setup right, you can really be punished throughout the weekend.
To be honest, I'm already thinking it. I think I'm going to put Max Verstappen to win for the Spanish Grand Prix, just because that has medium to high speed corners.
Yep.
Tick. It's a driver's circuit. Tick. It's kind of middle of the road in tyre abrasion. It's not too bad.
But there is stuff that happens there, don't you? There is a little bit.
Yeah, of course there is. But, there was some in Imola as well.
Yeah.
He managed it fine. So I just think it's the next one where he's going to have a proper opportunity. And
Cool.
I think he's going to take it.
Cool. Lucy, do you want to step up to the plate?
Yeah, so I also said Piastri was going to be on pole. He's shown to be doing pretty well in terms of, like, wet races, wet qualies so far in his career. And he performed really well here last year, so I'm saying he'll probably keep doing that. I am not being nearly as optimistic as Daniel is, though, because I'm saying that he's also going to finish P1. There will be no overtake for the lead. Or maybe there will be an overtake for the lead and then he overtakes right back.
Yeah.
The great thing about this prediction is that I don't have to place any money on how it happens. I just have to say what happens. And I'm saying Norris P2. The McLarens are, I think, the best car coming into this weekend, and so if I were McLaren and they didn't get a 1-2 kind of for any reason that wasn't, I don't know, a mechanical DNF or someone driving into them, I would be disappointed with that result. I've said Albon P3.
What the right? Okay.
You call it delusion. I call it he was robbed in Imola and this is my payback.
Do we? Well, my question is: do the track characteristics really suit the Williams?
I don't care. I'm
I don't
putting
think it
him
matters.
P3.
You don't think it matters?
Oh, in terms of, they've just got a good all-round car.
Oh, okay, fair
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
'Cause
This is not like because historically Williams have been good at circuits like Monza because they haven't had a very good car, so they haven't had very good downforce.
Yep.
So they've been good in a straight line. But this year it feels like they've genuinely bought an all-around package. And my prediction is that Alex Albon, fueled by the robbed podium from last week, will qualify. I'll say he'll qualify P4, and then something will happen and he'll move up to P3. P4, I've said George Russell. The Merc will be good, and realistically, I should have predicted him P3, but my delusion got in the way.
yeah.
So he's P4 now. And P5, Antonelli. The Merc's a consistent car, and the corners that he's been struggling with are non-existent at this track. So I think he'll be close to Russell. Who knows? I wouldn't be... If Antonelli outperformed Russell, I wouldn't be surprised, but I still think it's kind of... I'm betting on Russell to do a bit better.
Right. So we've got some variation here. We've got this could be the most interesting set of predictions we've had so far. We're seeing two Williams in
Because I've gone
fourth and third. Insane or seen the vision. We don't know.
Insanely good at predicting things.
Yes. Right. So I was very torn in terms of what I predicted because I was initially thinking Piastri pole as well. But I don't want to be boring. Right.
So that's boring now.
Yes, that's boring.
Wow. Okay.
Look, I'm seeing two people predict Piastri pole, so I can't do it. It hurts me in my heart of hearts. So I've gone with George Russell on pole.
Where has that come from? Where will it come from?
I think there'll be a bit of magic. I feel like he is definitely one of the best drivers on the grid. I think he's got a lap like that in him. And I think Monaco is the type of circuit where you have these types of freak poles, freak results, and I can envisage something happening. So I've gone Russell pole. I do also think he won't convert it. Because I think Lando Norris is going to convert. Is going to convert from second on the grid to win. I think Norris is going to win it. I'm going to say Russell in second. And I'm going to say Piastri in third. I think I can't really see a world where Piastri... I can't see a world when Russell drops down 2 positions from first. I feel you're more likely to get done by one driver off the start. And I was kind of thinking, Norris's starts have been pretty good this season, I feel.
Better than last year.
Yeah, there's a lot better than last. I feel like
they're pretty consistent as well. Like they've been consistently good starts. It's not like he's got an absolute barnstormer of a start and then has done terribly everywhere else.
Yes,
he's been pretty consistently good.
So I think there's a little bit of belief that's come from that type of element, and I also think he is shown. I know it didn't pay off for him in Miami, but he's shown that he's willing to get his elbows out and try and get stuck in, get dirty, I guess. And I think he could try and force his way through. So that's why I've gone that way. I think Piastri's going to finish third, like I said. And this would represent a big kind of shift in points in the championship battle, right? It's a 10-point swing. Fourth, this is where stuff... No, fourth is not going to be where stuff gets crazy. Fifth is going to be where stuff gets a little bit wild. In fourth, I've gone Max Verstappen. I think Red Bull will struggle, but I don't think there'll be enough movement. I don't think you'll be able to make much forward movement out of it. And I just think that Red Bull won't be particularly suited to the track. Fifth, I've gone for his first points of the season, Fernando Alonso.
I knew you were going to say that the second you said fifth is going to be where it gets crazy. I was like, it's going to be Fernando Alonso.
I think I saw a lot of potential in that qualifying at Imola.
Even though Aston's strategy is so consistently terrible.
Well, I feel if it is a dry race, there isn't a lot of stuff you can get wrong, I feel, if you just follow the pack.
Yeah, I guess so.
I feel if you follow the pack, there's not a lot of undercut potential, I guess, so there isn't really much of a threat there, I feel, because you're more likely to get boxed into like a busy part of the circuit. So I think this is where he will break his duck and score a good heap of points for a team that I feel desperately needs points.
To be honest, though, the way this season is going, it's more likely that Lance Stroll gets P5 than Alonso does.
Yeah, but I feel on pure pace, Alonso is still better. It's just a case where...
He's owed a P5. I feel like he's
owed a P5.
Yeah.
He's owed 10 points.
But statistically, he's not going to get it.
So I've gone there. That's how I've kind of organised. I've gone Alonso P5. Who do you think is going to DNF, and what is your random prediction?
My DNF is Charles Leclerc.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the Monaco curse returns.
It rears its ugly head once again.
Yes, its ugly head. I just feel like Charles Leclerc is frustrated right now. He's a very frustrated driver. And we've seen before in Monaco, when Charles Leclerc gets frustrated or he gets too confident, or if his emotions are just slightly out of check too much, it means disaster for his race. And I think those races in particular, 21, 22, but also, the mistake he made in 2019 when he clipped the inside wall at Anthony Nose, I think it is, like one of the last corners. So yeah, I just think he's gonna his kind of frustration's gonna get the better of him this weekend. My random prediction is 2 red flags in qualifying 3.
Ooh, that's specific. I think we should. I think we allow it. I think
That's fine.
Yeah, I thought two red flags in qualifying overall wasn't quite wild enough for Monaco, so I just thought I'd
And also
hit it with the
considering
Q3.
qualifying is the more interesting bit of the weekend anyway.
I'm completely fine with that. That's cool.
Okay.
What I will say is we are getting nice variety in the types of random predictions. I feel
We try.
we do our best here.
I
on the
don't
Warwick
like to
F1 show.
repeat my predictions, so
Yeah.
I'm slightly clutching at straws, but they're random.
Yeah, we could just go Alonso points, but we'd be here for like every race weekend predicting that until it happens.
Yeah. Yeah, poor Fernando,
He's
man.
getting stick now.
Yeah,
Sorry.
he's the
Sorry.
most unlucky driver on the grid, man.
and I'm making fun of it.
Most unlucky driver on the grid specifically because Daniel's making fun of him.
Exactly.
Lucy, reveal to us who your DNF and random prediction are.
It's funny that Daniel said that the Monaco curse was going to strike again because I personally, after last year, everyone said, oh, the Monaco curse is broken. The curse is not broken. Last year was a respite from the curse. And the universe wants to remind Charles Leclerc that he can never escape, and so it's going to DNF him.
Wow.
Or even DNS. I'm saying that if he DNSs, it counts as well. But
Okay, I would count a DNS
I'd
as well.
definitely count
yeah,
that.
as a DNF because he doesn't finish.
If he's
you
not
can't
starting,
finish
he's not
if you
finishing.
can't
Yeah.
start. So that's my DNF as well.
Oh,
And
man.
then my random, it's a compulsory 2-stop.
Yep.
At least one driver uses all 3 tyre compounds.
Oh, if we're bringing the C6 to this circuit, I kind of doubt that we're going to do that. I don't know. That's my.
Do you want points on? Do you want?
No, I don't.
Do you want to win or not, Anwar?
Yeah,
Come on.
good point. I'm not going to get you. You've already made your bed.
Oh! You were saying that you were saying you don't think that's likely. Sorry, I thought you were going to say you weren't going to allow it.
No,
I don't.
I don't think it's likely.
I don't care if it's unlikely. The only thing I ever got in this random predictions was when I said that all the rookies were going to finish, and you still tried to take that away from me by claiming that Alonso DNF.
Alonso's the rookie of the season.
I still haven't forgiven you for that, and for that reason, I'm going to keep making random predictions that annoy you.
Okay, cool. I'm glad that we're just now resolving to rage bait on the Warwick F1 show. Here we are. Cool. My DNF for this one. I'm going to continue our trend of just putting rookies here. Intro.
It's your trend
it's
now.
It's not a trend.
It's not even
just
us.
a trend for you. I don't think
I've
we've
got
ever
pizza.
said a rookie is
I
going to.
said a few at the start of the year, but I've stopped now.
I just like bashing on rookies. Pause.
Oh my god. Okay, sure. Yeah.
I think Colapinto is the one that's going to be feeling.
Ooh.
I think he's going to bin it. I feel.
He didn't have a great F2 here last time. I can see that happening. And also he is in an Alpine, so he may bin it, and also his engine may just spontaneously decide to die.
Yeah, it's always
Same time.
both.
He bins it.
Yeah.
The random prediction is one that kind of goes against all of our conversation about how difficult it is to overtake. Because I've said at least 5 on-track overtakes. And I'm saying proper overtakes. None of this binning and then inheriting a position after it. I'm saying...
So even if someone's down the escape road and they get overtaken, that doesn't count as an overtake.
Oh, no. I'm talking about a bit like people spinning out or putting it into a wall and then getting...
That doesn't count.
No.
Yeah.
If you're inheriting a position because of an incident, I wouldn't count it.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone makes a mistake, let's say going straight on at after the tunnel section, and then gets overtaken because of that, I think that should be counted as an overtake. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah, cool. Do we think that's crazy enough? 5?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Cool.
Have fun not getting any points.
Right. Says Mrs. All 3 compounds are going to be used when the soft tyre degrades quicker than an ice cream in 35 Celsius weather.
I genuinely think Anwar's is the most likely to come in of our predictions.
To be honest, yeah, but I don't want to admit it, so I'm just going to mock him for it instead.
Okay, yeah. We'll see who laughs last when we do the review of this episode, all right? Or the review of the race. But that brings us to the end of our 18th episode of the Warwick F1 show. Thank you for Lucy and Daniel for being in the studio with me. We'll see you at some point next week when we unpack the events that occurred over the course of Monaco's Grand Prix weekend. I've been your host Anwar, and until next time, thank you very much for listening or watching, and we'll see you then. Goodbye.